Welcome to Lifestyle Alchemy. I'm Sydney, medical astrologer, energetic alchemist, and transformation expert. In this podcast, I share what I'm actually living and learning. Sometimes that's decoding my birth chart. Sometimes it's rewiring and regulating my nervous system. Sometimes it's just real talk about what's working and what's not. This show goes beyond astrology. You'll hear about health and wellness, mindset and energy work, manifestation, spirituality, and all the things that help us actually embody who we're meant to be. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to Lifestyle Alchemy. All right. As promised last week, I told you that I was going to finally share my experience with quote unquote training my intuition and kind of just talk to you about my story with that, my journey with that, and what I really just what I learned from it, what I really didn't like about it and still don't like about it. So let's just jump in. This could potentially be another long episode. And I really just want to preface this by saying, this should go without saying, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. This is my story. This is my experience. I realize that other people have other experiences and other perceptions and perspectives, and that is okay. But this is my podcast, and so I am sharing my story. And I also want to say, just as kind of a disclaimer, everything that I'm going to share is obviously how I experienced it and how I perceive it. And I think the way that my intuition works, which I'll get into this a little bit more in detail, but the way that my intuition works, like this particular container was just never going to be right for me. And I think that it might be right for other people. I see a lot of other people who absolutely would swear by this program or these courses. There's different levels. That's why it's kind of hard. There's 5 levels as of right now. And obviously you have to start with level 1. And so it's like a series of courses that kind of build on each other. And some people, maybe the way that their intuition works, maybe it really did help them connect with their intuition. Also, I don't say this to sound like, oh, I'm so good or I'm so advanced or whatever, but really what this whole thing taught me, what it really boils down to just completely simplify it. And I will, of course, get into the details, but just a quick, higher perspective overview. What training my intuition taught me was how already wildly intuitive I was and how in tune I already was with my intuition. I think if you are someone who is just really disconnected, you don't ever trust yourself, you don't really already have a direct line to your higher self, and you do, everyone has it, but if you're not using it, you don't know how to access it or initiate it, I could see how something like this could make you feel really powerful and make you feel more connected than maybe you've ever felt in your life before, because it might open up that kind of lane of communication if you haven't already accessed that on your own. I could see how if you are just someone who is always seeking outside of you, you're always going to everyone else to get the consensus, get the opinion, going to the group chat, going to your mom, going to your friend, going to your partner, going to whoever, to look outside of you for guidance or advice or, whatever it is that you're looking for. I could see how something like this might be a godsend for you. However, that has just never been me. Like, I was talking about this with a friend, and I was like, I just I've never been someone, even like as early as I can remember, like way, 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 way before I was ever like spiritual. I mean, I grew up like Christian in the Midwest. I wasn't like open-minded. Like, I was not. But as just thinking back, as long as I can remember, I have never been someone who always like outsourced my power or went to everyone asking around, like shopping around for opinions until I found one that like I liked or validated me. Like, I just have never, that's not how I operate. I naturally trust myself. And I do also want to acknowledge that like, I'm very lucky that that's the case. I'm very like, that's a gift that I think I just kind of was born with. And I don't know if it's because of human design or if it's also a lot to do. I think it's also a lot to do with just my astrological makeup, my personality. I think some of it is how I was raised. I am so incredibly blessed. And like, I'm going to try not to cry when I talk about this, because I just like when I talk about like my dad and just how much I love him, like I could just cry like at the drop of a hat. It's like one of the things that will make me just instantly cry. And there's not very many things like that, but I just was so incredibly blessed. I'm sorry, I keep clearing my throat. I just ate lunch and, it's like, I just feel like I need to clear my throat. Anyway, I was so blessed to have a father who just genuinely loves me and believes in me so much that like he made me feel like I just have a seat at any table. Like I am so worthy of being a part of absolutely anything I want to be a part of, and that I belong and that I have something to offer, and I'm smart and I've got a unique, perspective. And so I know that probably contributes as well. But anyway, so I just have never been someone who's like texting everyone asking for their opinion. I'm more the one to like do it, like act on it, and then like tell people what I did and not ask like, oh, what do you think? Should I do this? Like, I rarely ask for opinions. I mean, rarely. And if I do, a lot of times it's like after the fact, like I already did this. What do you think about it? Or, maybe on like an outfit or something, I might be more likely to ask, because that just is like super low stakes. Like that's not a life decision, that's like easily, changeable. So anyway, I think if you are someone who is always outsourcing her power and just not super connected to your higher self or just the divine, I am very, very connected with, and have been like for years, very connected with like the angelic realm, and I call them like my healing team, which would be comprised of like my guardian angels, my spirit guides, my higher self, God. Like I am connected with that, and it's not in a religious way. Like I am not religious at all. I used to be Christian. I do not identify that way anymore. But I had already had like multiple spiritual awakenings, and I was already like doing like serious work in that realm. I was already like an alchemist. I had transformed so much. I was manifesting, like I had manifested so many things. I'm a specific manifester according to my human design. So I manifest really, really well whenever I'm ultra specific. And I mean, I can't even tell you right now, just like all the things that I've manifested just from like scripting or like affirming and connect. Of course, you have to connect to it emotionally. I mean, I've manifested crazy specific things. I manifested my partner, Corey, who is like literally exactly what I I had like a four or 5 page list of things that I wanted in a partner. And I mean, he is like as close to that as a person could possibly be, and then more, like even more that I didn't even know that I wanted or needed. So anyway, okay, I say all of that just to kind of share where I was at before I discovered this teacher. And I'm not going to name her because this is not about like spreading hate. This is not about like muddying anyone's name. Of course, some of you are going to have absolutely no idea who I'm talking about. Some of you might know exactly who I'm talking about because maybe you were in the intuition training with me. I certainly made some friends there, which I'm very grateful for that. And like I said, I'm not naming anyone because this is not about like a person necessarily. This is about my experience with training my intuition and the issues that I have with the particular way that this container was, or the way that it was taught, which I'm sure it's taught differently in other containers. Like I can't say, like I've only taken the courses that I've taken. I have no idea how other like intuition teachers teach it. So I am, like I said, only going to share my story. Okay, let's get into it. So, like I said, what this all boils down to is I was already super, super, super connected to my intuition. I didn't even realize how connected I was to my intuition until I started training my intuition and it disconnected me. So, what I mean by that is, so for me, I am a splenic authority in human design, and we all have different, like we all have an authority. There are I don't even know how many different ones. There are multiple different kinds of authority, like emotional, sacral, splenic, I don't even know, mental, probably. I don't even know what they all are. To be honest, I'm not a human design expert at all. I just know about mine because I also encourage you to learn about yours. It really does explain kind of like the way that your energy is meant to move in the world. I think that's like the best way I can explain it. And, it goes hand in hand with astrology. Like for me, it doesn't say something different. So a lot of times people like get overwhelmed by all of the systems. Like there's astrology, numerology, human design, like Enneagram. There's all kinds like archetypes. There's all kinds of different systems. And what I find is that they really all say the same thing in different languages. And so it might help you understand different aspects of yourself just in different ways. But like for me, they don't contradict. It all fits together and it all like validates each other. So, okay, so I'm splenic authority, and what that means is I experience my intuition instantly. I mean, like instantly, sometimes, actually, oftentimes before I even like consciously ask a question. Like before I pose a question, I already like just know the answer. And so what that means is like my claircognizance is off the charts. I think claircognizance, I've talked about this with multiple people who are also very claircognizant, and like we all agree I think that claircognizance is the clair that probably goes under the radar the most, because it's not like, you know, if you're clairvoyant, you're seeing something, whether it's in your mind's eye or whether you're physically seeing something like an angel or a demon or something, like that is very obvious and it's very clear, and you can probably detect that it's happening when it's happening. And clair audience, like if you hear things, you get messages through some kind of auditory way. Again, that's very easily detectable. Whenever it's something like claircognizance and you just have this knowing and you're like, I don't know how or why I know this. There's no explanation. And I didn't even ask a question necessarily. So you're just kind of like, is this like actually my intuition, or is this like my thoughts? Because a lot of times I experience it like I just feel like I'm thinking. Like I'll just get it, like I'll get something in my head, or I'll just like, again, like I'll just have this like knowing. It's like it's just like transplanted into my body, my subconscious. I mean, I don't know exactly where, but like it's just like put in me, and I just know it. And I'm like, well, there's no way that I could know this. There's no reason why I could know this. And oftentimes, like I said, it's not like I was seeking that information out or asking questions about that or like really thinking about it or tuning into it intentionally. Like most of the time I'm not. And I still like have that knowing. And because I have splenic authority, it comes in like snap your fingers and it is there. It is there. And the other thing with splenic authority is if you don't like kind of clock it and recognize it and act on it right then, it disappears and then it's like gone. So it's not like, oh, I'm gonna come, like, yeah, I'll be back, you know. It's not gonna make its way back around the block. Like it's gone. And so what for me, whenever we started doing like these practice reads, which we started on week 1, like we started already doing practice reads for like each other. And I like, sometimes I would struggle because I would be like, okay, I already feel like I know the information like before I've even like gone through the whole process that she teaches of like, do this, do this, do this, and then do this, and then ask the question, and then blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm like, well, I already know the answer like before I've already done all of that. So then I would start doubting myself. Of like, well, maybe I'm just not that intuitive because I'm not having the same experience that a lot of these other people are having with how they're like going through all the steps and they're connecting to the, like she taught to connect to source, which I fucking hate that word now, but like connect to the source, like white light, and then connect to like pink light from the earth and like visualize it like coming down through your crown and then up through your feet, and like, you know, you have to shield yourself and like there's all these things, and then you ask the question, you like set the intention to connect to like God and the person's higher self, whoever you're trying to like read for, or your higher self if you are the one who is reading yourself. Like there's all kinds of steps that she taught us to do. And I would like, I would be like trying to do that, and I would already be tapping into like whatever. And I just, that like really fucked with my mind because I literally was like, oh, I maybe I'm just like not as intuitive as I thought I was, you know, maybe like my mind is just playing tricks on me. I can't, like, maybe this is just my brain, like trying to come up with logical answers. And it just, it really, really, really disconnected me from what I already was extremely connected to and didn't even like realize it. And it just, the contrast of it, like now, especially being removed from that community and from practicing like intuition that way, I can now so clearly see how connected I always have been to my intuition. Now, have I always followed it 100%? No, like none of us have. If I had been like, let's be so fucking for real. If I had been like totally listening to my intuition, I would not have gotten married when I was 22 years old, you guys. Like, are you kidding me? I knew, like looking back, I literally knew. And I had this feeling like on my wedding night, like after we had gotten married and we were like at the reception or whatever, like I literally had this feeling, I will never forget this, of like, what have I done? And I just hope that none of you experience that ever, because it's just really not fun. It's not fun. But it just like, when I look back, I'm like, holy shit, I literally have been so connected like this whole time. And sometimes I absolutely have ignored it and like overridden my intuition because I'm just stubborn, and there's things that sometimes I just wanted to do even when they absolutely were not the best thing for me. But I also believe, like just as a side note, I also believe that there is a such thing as like, sometimes we need to do things. Sometimes there are things in our soul contract that are not like technically the best for us, but they are going to teach us things that we need to know, and they're going to help us access parts of ourselves that we couldn't otherwise. And so, like, even though I joke and I'm like, yeah, I never would have gotten married when I was 22 if I listened to my intuition, like, yes, that is true, but also I realized that doing that was the best thing for me, not because it was supposed to last, or not because like he really was my person, but because through that like traumatic experience of marrying someone who I very shortly after we got married found out was a drug addict and an alcoholic, through like several of the really, really awful choices he made due to his addiction, I learned so many things about myself. I became such a stronger version of myself, and ultimately I chose myself and got out of that situation, even though it was really, really hard to do. Getting divorced at, let's see, I must have been like 25 whenever I left him. Getting divorced or like leaving your husband when you're 25 in the Midwest, and at that time we were both really involved in church. We were both on the worship team at our church, and that wasn't easy. So anyway, it just like, as a side note, I do think that a lot of times we are not meant to avoid the hard things or the things that aren't necessarily the best for us, because it's like the right, wrong thing, the right, wrong decision. So anyway, okay. I also, here's another thing that I just kind of have like a completely unorganized list of the things that I personally take issue with within this particular brand of intuition training. So a lot of like every week we would have these, like, it would be like a topic or a set list of questions that we would read like in our practice reads with each other. And so like one week might be reading soul contracts, or reading what chakra is operating at the lowest percentage, which I will talk about percentages. I have big beef with percentages, so we'll get there. But there were just like different kinds of reads that we would do in different questions. And honestly, and I even like realized this like right off the bat, I do not believe that we are supposed to know everything at any given time. I very much, and like my higher self we would be like doing these practice reads, and somebody would like want to know something, and I like would feel so blocked from like getting that information for them, because I just like knew whenever it wasn't something that they were supposed to know. And that was tough, because like, what am I supposed to say to them? Like, they literally we were told, here's the list of questions to practice with your partner. What am I supposed to say? Even though she told us to like do these, I don't believe that you're supposed to know the answer. That probably wouldn't have gone over very well, or like what they would have done is probably just gone and practiced with someone else who would do it. But like, I don't believe that it's in integrity to look in on everything. I don't think that, even if so this happens very often, I will get intuitive information, like claircognizant knowing about a lot of people in my life, and even people who are not in my life. Like, I could just be like, grocery shopping or something, and I might just have this random incoming of information about somebody that I'm like standing next to in line, the checkout line or something. And like, obviously I'm not going to go tell them that, like, I'm not going to go be like, so you're going through a divorce right now and blah, 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 blah. Like, that is so uncalled for, And I just think that like sometimes people, and myself included, there have definitely been times when I have wanted to know the answer to questions that it wasn't of my highest good to know the answer to that question at that point in time. I think whenever we are supposed to know things, we find out when we're supposed to find out. And sometimes we're not supposed to find out. Like, it's okay to not know everything. It's okay to be uncomfortable with what may be going on in your life, and maybe you'll find out later, like, oh, okay, this makes sense of why I got my heart broken and had to go through this breakup. This makes sense because now I can see that I'm so incredibly happy with someone who is so much better for me. But it wouldn't necessarily benefit you when you're going through the worst of the worst kind of heartbreak to know, okay, well, in a year and 2 months, you're going to meet somebody named this, and he's going to do this as a job, and blah, blah, blah. Like, you don't need to know those details at that time, because at that time, you're going to be thinking like, well, fuck that person. I don't want them. Like, they can't possibly be better than the person I'm heartbroken about. Like, I know when I was going through my deepest heartbreak, if you had told me, okay, Sydney, in 2 years, you're going to meet Corey and he is going to be the man of your dreams. He is the most precious, soft-spoken, loving, safe, nurturing, but also like strong, masculine, just beautiful person. He is so handsome and he just compliments you so well and he takes care of you, and you're going to move across the country with him, and which you've always wanted to do. You're going to do it and you're going to be so happy, blah, 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 blah. Even though like now that sounds so happy, if you had told me that whenever I was in the thick of heartbreak, thinking that there was literally not a single other person on this earth as good as my ex, like, I would have been so upset. I would have been like, no, fuck that. I don't want that. I only want this, because I wasn't in a place to be able to receive or like even imagine that there might have been something better out there. Like, you just couldn't have convinced me. And that is why that's just one example of why I just do not believe that we are supposed to always know this information, even if we may be able to access it. Like, sometimes I think that we can access information, and sometimes I actually think that higher self is much, much smarter and more advanced and is like, no, bitch, I am not telling you the answer to that. Like, you don't need to know that. It is not going to help you. It's not going to serve you. And so I experienced that, like I said, multiple times throughout the weeks that we would practice, where I would just be like, I know that they're not supposed to know the answer to this. So I don't even like feel like I am being within integrity to like, quote unquote, look into this for them. And some of this is kind of going into my next point. We started out like really, really, really early on, within the first few weeks, already doing reads that were very consequential, like very serious things, like could be health related, could be something else, but it wasn't just like little small things that wouldn't necessarily change your life. Like, if you were to get it wrong, we were like doing things that if you acted on it, it could change your life. And if, like, we were new, we were beginners. And yes, like a lot of us might have already felt like we were very intuitive, but that doesn't mean that you should just like be giving someone potentially detrimental information and telling them, okay, do this and do this and do this and don't do that. Like, I don't know, that for me just feels a little sticky. It feels a little slippery, like it's a slippery slope, to be putting like super amateur intuitives. Like, I mean, for me, like I said, I've been connected to my intuition my whole life, but I wasn't connected to like intentionally reading things for other people. 'Cause like I I had my whole life pretty much, been getting claircognizant knowing about things or people, but mostly it's about me. Like mostly it's just in relation to my life. And so it's a whole different thing whenever you are like, okay, we're going to practice at this time and I'm going to look into this, and this for you. And I'm going to come up with answers on the spot. Like that's a whole different thing than just like receiving intuitive knowing or guidance, like as it comes and as it is supposed to come to you. And, yeah, so I just thought it was interesting. And like, also, I'll be honest with you, I didn't trust the information that I would receive in a like most of what I've been talking about is the information I was giving and like my experience, my perspective of whenever like practicing the intuitive reads, like from my perspective. But so on the receiving end, there were plenty of times where we would be doing the practice reads and I was like hearing the information that is being told to me. And I would be like, well, that's not accurate. Like, I already know that that's not true. Like, and so it just like made me doubt because I'm like, we're just all out here, like making shit up basically. And like telling each other like, oh yeah, your sacral chakra is only at 20%. I'm like, what are we talking about here? Like literally what? And that's not provable. Like, it's not something that you can like, now let's just go ahead and segue into the percentage conversation. Like percentages is not like intuitive percentages is not something that can be proven or disproven. So it's like very convenient that we would be like doing all these body scans or what's the percentage that you are rooted to this belief, or what's the percentage of wholeness that you have in this area of life, whatever. Like there's so many different ways that percentages were used or encouraged to be used. And I just already from like day one that we started working with percentages was just like, fuck this shit. I don't believe in it. I don't think it's legit. I think like basically we were taught like whatever number pops into your head first is what it is. And I was just like, what? So, okay, like the number 67 pops into my head. So it's just 67%. Like, who's fact checking this? Nobody, because it can't be fact checked because it is literally just something that you're like essentially making up. And I think sometimes that can be really harmful. And like, you just can't convince me at this point that intuitive percentages are a legit thing. I just do not believe it. I still see so many people like talking about it and posting about it on social media. Like, oh, I'm this percentage this and I'm this percentage that and blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, I can't. Like all I hear and think of when I see people like talking about that is like, okay, well, that's just the first number that popped into your head and you just like ran with it. And what was interesting is I started to see patterns of like, we had a Signal group chat and like, it's still going on, but I'm just like not involved in it anymore. But like, we had a Signal group chat between all of us that were in the course together. And so a lot of times people would be asking questions in there of like, hey, can you look in and see this? Can you look in and see that? And again, that's another version of like outsourcing your power when everybody's always in there like, hey, can you tell me this? Can you tell me this? And like, again, I did this too, because remember, I already was feeling like disconnected from my intuition as soon as we started learning how to train our intuition. I was like feeling disconnected because I experienced my intuition differently than how it was like taught. And so, I just noticed that a lot of times when people would be like asking us, like the other people in the container, to look into certain percentages for them, a lot of the time people would give like the same percentage for different things. So it was like a lot of 86s, a lot of like, I can't remember now like what all the numbers were, but like there was a lot of sevens, a lot of sixes, and I just was like, that's interesting how you never see like a 31% or like a, like a 17% or like a 22%. Like it was always like a 86% or 67%. And I just was like, that's so interesting how like all these totally different questions, totally different people, and we're seeing a lot of the exact same number. And I'm just like, that to me starts to get into the realm of like groupthink. That's a sociological term, like just very groupthink. It's very like, okay, this number is already in my subconscious mind because I've been looking at the chat and I'm already seeing like that number is just in there. It's like top of mind. So like it's natural that would be the first number that I think of whenever I'm, looking for a percentage for someone. So I just thought that was interesting. And okay, so with this particular brand of intuition training, the word scientific is used quite a lot. And it is like hot and heavy lately. I'm seeing like everybody within the community talk about scientifically precise trained intuition, blah, 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 blah. Okay. My personal belief is that intuition is not meant to be scientific because intuition does not always make sense. In fact, a lot of the time it does not make sense. And if you were to tell somebody, my intuition or my intuitive nudge, my intuitive knowing is blah, 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 the person that you're telling it to might be like, you're fucking crazy. Like, what? Prove that or make sense of that. And you'd be like, I really can't. I just know. Like, I just know. And I just do not think that the word scientific really ever belongs with intuition. And it's not that I think intuition isn't real. Like I 1000% think it's real, but I don't know why we have to be mixing the two. Like why can't science be science and science be, my perception or like my understanding of science is that it is provable. It's repeatable. It is like multiple people can do the same, like let's say experiment or the same whatever and get the same result. And that is not how it is with intuition. Like everybody was coming up with different answers, and like you could ask the same thing to 3 different people and there would be 3 different answers. Like there just would. And maybe once if you're just someone who is just like, that is what you are on this earth to do, is to just be this incredibly gifted, intuitive person, maybe you do get more and more accurate to where it starts to feel a little scientific. Okay, I can get on board with that. But I don't think that is the majority of us. I don't think that intuition needs to be mixed with the word scientific. From my perception, it's like that word is used over and over and over to make it seem more credible. Like, because just, I think as a society, we are typically more trusting in science than we are in just like someone's like gut feeling or, like your internal knowing. Because like your internal knowing is unique to you, and my internal knowing is very specific to me. Yours is to you, and it's not scientific. It's just not. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't necessarily have a rhyme or a reason. It just is. And that doesn't mean that it's not true, because something doesn't need to be scientific to be true or to be credible. But it's like, it's almost just like a marketing tactic of like, let's just stick the word like scientific and neuroscience and blah, 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 so that it will seem more legit. And I just think that if something is legit, you don't need to put all these other like words onto it to make it seem more so. So, yeah, scientific, I do not think so. Okay. Now let's get into the other part, which I have talked about this a few times on the podcast already, But there were several different reads that we practiced that had a lot to do with health things. I mean, most of us, whether or not, someone had like an actual autoimmune disorder or like an actual diagnosed like disease, most of us had something that we wanted to heal physically, or maybe we wanted to release a few pounds or just get in better shape, or, everybody kind of had something that they wanted to heal within their body, or at least change within their body. And basically, like I've said before, you have to have an awareness of, like, in my opinion, and I think it's an educated opinion, if you are going to give an intuitive read about health to someone, you need to have a really fucking good understanding of health, wellness, maybe anatomy, maybe, different illnesses or diseases or symptoms or, methods of healing. Like, you need to have a lot of things in your arsenal, AKA like just your brain, that you're aware of so that you can actually intuit the correct information to that person. Because if you're just like an average person that like you're not super like into health and wellness, like you're not necessarily unhealthy, but like you don't study it, you're not, you don't know everything, or like you don't even know very much about the human body, you're not a hormone expert, you are not a fitness coach, you're not a personal trainer, you're not a nutritionist, you're not a doctor, you're not a nurse, you're not some kind of holistic healthcare practitioner, you're not a medical astrologer, you're not a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. You don't know enough about the body or health and wellness to be able to intuit like necessarily the full picture of what that person might need to hear. You might be able to give them like an extremely basic surface level answer that could help like very, very marginally, but you can't necessarily, I really don't believe that you could truly get to the root of it if you don't fully like have a frame of reference for everything that's involved. So I've said this before, I have a trusted intuitive friend here in Phoenix who I worked with even before I ever discovered this other person that I took the courses from. So this girl that's local here in Phoenix, she is the reason why I was finally able to get diagnosed with Hashimoto's. And I am just so eternally grateful to her. So I had scheduled an intuitive read because there were just like, there was just like a couple of things that I was like, I would really love to get like someone who is very objective and someone who I trust to truly connect with my higher self and just get information like from a really unbiased place, who is not emotionally connected. And so one of the main things that I had asked about was my health, because at that time I had had multiple rounds of labs done. I had my thyroid tested 2 different times and everything kept coming back, quote unquote, normal. And I knew that something was, multiple things were very much not normal. And I just was having no luck. And I was like, I'm not crazy. Like, I know that something's wrong, but I don't know exactly like what it is. And I feel like I've done what I can by going and like asking for full thyroid panels and everything, but then it comes back normal. And I'm just like, okay, well, was I wrong about that? Like, what is it? So anyway, I'm having this reading with her and she told me, she did not tell me like, okay, hold on, let me back it up. She told me Hashimoto's. She's like, Hashimoto's is coming to mind. So you need to go and go get another set of labs done. And specifically, you need to ask for antibody tests because that's the only way that they will diagnose you with like Hashimoto's. They don't just, what's so crazy to me is that I literally had gone and like told them all these symptoms I was having that were consistent with Hashimoto's and that they didn't just already do the antibody test. Like, that's so crazy to me that I had to go back like a third time and be like, can you do the antibody tests? But anyway, my point in sharing that story again is that she knew what Hashimoto's was. She was familiar with that disorder, that disease, that autoimmune disorder. And she knew that in order for me to like get it confirmed and to start healing like on a physical level, that I needed to go and get the antibody test. She didn't just like minimize it by saying like, yeah, it's Hashimoto's, but all you need to do is start speaking your truth and blah, 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 blah. Like, she didn't over spiritualize it. She didn't like just tell me energetic things to do. She told me like the physical things to do. And she was able to do that because she had an awareness of what the disorder even is and how you get diagnosed with it. And I don't even know, like, she's not a health, like she's like a tantra teacher, yoga teacher, and like a psychic. She's not like a health practitioner. So I don't know how she knew like that information. Maybe somebody in her life has struggled with it, but the point is she did know. And I'm so grateful that she did, because then come to find out, like I did absolutely have both of those two kinds of thyroid antibodies. And that is how I got started on my healing journey. And because, so my next point of beef that I have with this training intuition is that a lot of the health things that I was seeing were just like way grossly oversimplified. And it just like kind of gave me the same energy, or like the kind of the image in my head that I get is like, I'm not Catholic. I never have been Catholic, but like, you know how Catholics, like they do the confession, like, you know, when they do sins or whatever, like they go to the priest and they do the confession, like in the confessional booth. And then the priest is like, okay, do 5 Hail Marys and then you'll be forgiven or whatever. And it just felt like we would be doing these practice reads about health, and it would be like, okay, say this affirmation in the mirror for 5 days, and then do a dance every morning, like a somatic dance every morning for a week. And then, I don't know, like it was just like random stuff like that. And I was like, I'm sorry, like it's not that those things are going to hurt. Like it's not that those things are bad. But once you have literally like, once something, like every disorder, every disease, every sickness starts as like a thought or like an energy. Yes, that is true. But once it manifests and it is a full on like autoimmune disorder or something, you are not going to fucking heal it just from like saying an affirmation in the mirror for 5 days or whatever. Like there are actually physical things that you need to do. And like, I looking back, I'm just like, I feel sad for myself, because there were multiple times where I would like do practice reads with people and I would be like, okay, like I just got diagnosed with Hashimoto's, like how can I heal this? Or like, what more do I need to do to heal this than what I'm already doing? And it would just be such silly things like that. And I would just be like, can you give me something real though? Like, this is so arbitrary. Like, you know, tell me, like once something manifests and is actually a physical illness, you have to also do the physical shit to heal it. Like, yes, of course you want to do the frequency work, the energy work, you want to shift your beliefs. You want to, of course, if it is a thyroid thing, you do want to start speaking up and using your voice and expressing yourself and not shrinking and, you know, staying quiet and like swallowing your words and all of that. Like, yes. And of course, if it's an autoimmune disorder, you want to stop beating yourself up. You want to stop, you know, fighting yourself and just, you know, you want to express yourself. Like, yes, that is the energetic side of it, 100%. But once it is already in the physical, you have to also treat the physical. And that may be something like thyroid medication for a period of time, or it may be a pretty substantial change or shift in the way that you eat, you know, the way that you nourish yourself. It might be a big change in how you move your body. It might be that you really, really need to work on regulating your nervous system, because maybe like me, you were stuck in a state of dorsal vagal shutdown, aka functional freeze, for quite some time. And you like, there are specific things that you need to do for that are very, very different than what you would need to do for like other things. And if the person who's intuiting those things for you doesn't have that frame of awareness, I just do not believe that they're going to be able to impart that information to you. And I don't believe that that's possible, because everything that was intuited for me and told to me to like do wasn't the thing that actually healed me. Like, wasn't the things that I did that actually moved the needle for me. Like, I had to figure all that out on my own. The things that actually moved the needle for me were the things that I figured out for myself, not the things that I was told in these practice intuitive reads. And so, yeah, it felt kind of bypassy. It felt misleading. And it's none of this is because I think any of the people have like bad intentions. Like, I am not saying any of this to make any of the women who I practiced with like feel bad or feel like they're not really good people, or like, it's not that. It's just like they didn't know. They were not experts in health and wellness, and they just really don't have any business like having the weight of someone's like health and healing on their shoulders, because they are not an expert in that. Why would I expect them to be an expert in that? Why would I expect them to be able to tell me exactly what I need to do? They don't know. Like, they don't, like, respectfully, they do not know what they're talking about in this area. They might be incredible in another area, like relationship or career or financial. They might be able to tell me literally exactly word for word what to do in some other area, but in the health area, like, just not everyone is qualified to speak on that. And especially when it's a high stakes situation, like someone's health, whenever they already have a diagnosis and they're already like struggling, that's just not something you want to play with, in my opinion. I mean, it's certainly not something I want to play with when it's my health. Like, I invest a lot of time, energy, and money into my health, and I don't want to be investing that in doing the wrong things that somebody told me just because they are, ignorant in, again, like, I'm not saying that in a mean way, but like, it is ignorance. So, okay, next thing is there was like, now this is going to sound harsh, but I'm just going to say it anyway. The energy behind this community gives cult. Like, it's giving cult. And like, obviously to have a cult, you have to have a cult leader, and they're like, that is how it is. Like, people, and I'm not saying that the leader of this community, the teacher, wants this necessarily. Like, I'm not accusing her of like trying to have it be like this, but somehow it has become like this anyway. And it's just like everyone, it seems like within this community, it's kind of like interesting to me because she's teaching like intuition. I want you to rely on your inner guidance. I want you to not need me, blah, like she says these things. And then somehow, whether it's because of the energy work that she does or what, like, I don't know, but somehow everybody just ends up defaulting back to what she thinks. And you see this in the Signal chat, or I saw this in the Signal chat time and time again, where people would be coming to the Signal chat and being like, okay, what does teacher's name think about this? Or what does she say about this? Or like, what do we think about this? And it was just like, okay, in this container where we're learning to quote unquote train our intuition, shouldn't we all be like getting better at forming our own opinions and like connecting with our own higher selves to form opinions or beliefs or whatever on these different things? Like, why are we going back and just asking what the leader thinks of these different things? Like, I just saw that so much. And there's also like a very established kind of like vocabulary within the community. Like, and I mean, if you listen to my early episodes, I am so fucking deep in it. Like at that point, my first few episodes, I was in this community. Like I was using the lingo, I was teaching the concepts, all of that. And I like low key want to delete my first several episodes, but then I'm also like, no, you know, like that's what I was doing at that point, and that's what I believed at that point. And so I don't want to delete them, but I'm also like, can you please not go back and listen to them? But there were very specific like terms for, like, for instance, the electromagnetic field, which is a very real thing that is like around our body. It's like our auric field. That like is called something very specific within this community. There's all kinds of different terms and words that this teacher kind of has somewhat coined. Like, you know, they're not like trademarked or anything, but like they're just words that she uses like over and over and over again. And that is her like little vocabulary that she's created, and it works for her. And everybody like adopts this same language. And I don't know that if they realize like how carbon copy they sound. And it's also interesting because, so for instance, we actually learned to do something really cool. Like, this is a positive thing I'll say. We learned how to like access the Akashic records and pull different like masteries of different things. Like, that's something that it's not exclusive to this teacher. Like, this is a thing that you can do, and it's really cool. Like, we all should be, it's crazy that we're not all like pulling masteries from the Akashic records, which basically it's just this like library of every kind of expertise and level of mastery that you can possibly think of. Like, think of anything that you want to be like an expert in, you can pull that from the Akashic records, and it will literally help you like be better at that thing. It's not like overnight. Like, if you're like a really shitty cook and you pull a mastery of like from like, let's say you pull mastery of like a Michelin star chef or whatever, like, you're not going to wake up the next day and just like automatically be like Gordon Ramsay level, but it will just like make it land much quicker and easier for you. Like, let's say you have a, like you do that and you pull a mastery, and then you enroll in a cooking class, and it comes like a lot easier to you than it would have before. And like, maybe your knife skills become like a lot better than they were before, or something like that. So like, that's kind of how it works. And that's a really cool thing. And that's something that I think, like, if you're in this, like, if you're into all this stuff, like spirituality and like just self-mastery and growth and all of that, like, why wouldn't we want to be pulling all of these different kinds of expertise from the Akashic records, like from the collective of people who have mastered these things before us? We have access to that. So it's like super cool. So we learned how to do that. And within, like, there were people who, I guess, weren't sure like which ones they should pull. I mean, I was like making a list of like, I still have the list. I made such a long list. I was already like, ooh, this. I want to be an expert at this. I want to be able to do this. And I mean, it was just like, some of it was like very, like more obvious, like, and then some of it was much more like niche and like stuff that nobody else would think of. And so, but a lot of people in the Signal group chat were like asking like, hey, what does my higher self want me to pull first? Like, what would be best for me to pull first? Which, again, outsourcing, if we are really these truly advanced trained intuitives, we should be able to get that information for ourselves, right? But everybody was like or not everybody, but a lot of people were asking, you know, like, hey, can someone look in for me and tell me what top 3 masteries I should pull from the Akashic records? And what I just think was so interesting, and this goes back to my theory about it just being a huge like groupthink situation, is that people were only giving a pool of like 5 different things. It would be like self-image, emotional mastery, financial, that's all I can even think of right now. Like, I'm sure there was like one more or something, but it was like, that was it. And I was just like, are you kidding me? I just in 5 minutes made a list of like 20 or 30 different things. Like, you're telling me that those are the only masteries that are coming to any of your minds. And that just kind of goes back to like, it's like everyone in this community is just operating from like such a limited little vocabulary of what they are being taught, and like not able to like take it a step further, or like put their own brain into it, put their own like passions and creativity and their own just like essence into it. And they're just like taking like, oh, well, we heard the teacher talk about emotional mastery, so we'll put that. Financial, of course, everybody wants to improve their financials. Like, we'll say that. But it's like, there's literally so many different, like, oh my God, probably billions of different kinds of like things that you could be a master at or an expert at in this life that could help you and like enrich your life. But we're just pulling from this same 4 or 5 different things for everyone. Like, no, it's so generic. It's so like group think. It's so like, I'm not thinking for myself. I'm not intuiting for myself. I'm just regurgitating information. And that just like felt very icky to me. And it just made me feel like I'm on the out group, and like I'm just like the rebellious one, because I was like experiencing that in real time and being like, why is nobody saying anything unique? Why is nobody saying anything original? Why is everybody just saying the same shit? Like, there's no way that my soul is here to do the exact same things and master the exact same things as everyone else's soul in this group. Like, that's just not true. Like, we are all here to do our own things. We are all our own personalities. We are all our own like individual people who like, yeah, maybe we all have a common theme of like financial or self-love or whatever, but like there's so much more than just that. There is so much more than just that. So that was something that I just like really did not love. And okay, so last thing I'll talk about is one of the reads was about like an intuitive health and fitness plan. And it was basically where you spend like literal hours intuiting, like going through and asking all these like yes or no questions and percentage questions on like, what's the best health and fitness plan for this person according to what they say that their goals are regarding their health and fitness. And I mean, it was an incredibly in-depth intuitive reading. And so initially just my kind of issue with that was, you know, there are so many things that literally change on a daily basis. Like one day you could ask your body, should I eat like red meat today? Or what, fill in the blank. And the answer might be no. Because maybe that day it's not in your best interest, because maybe your body doesn't have, like maybe you're in, maybe the day before you ate fattier foods and your digestion is having to work harder to digest all of that, and it doesn't have the bandwidth to properly digest like red meat that day. It doesn't mean that you're never supposed to eat red meat. Like maybe red meat is usually a really ideal food for you. Of course, given that it's like organic and grass fed. Maybe normally that's like really, really good for you, but just on this particular day, it's not. And that might be the day that they were testing, and they might get a no, like, no, you're not supposed to have red meat, but really you are. So you can see how this can get really hairy, how it's like, this is not something that we want to be like testing once and then just like living by that, because it can literally change every single day. Like maybe you're a little congested, or maybe you kind of are recovering from a cold, and normally dairy is totally fine for you if it's, again, like organic and grass fed and it's high quality. But you might test like your body might say no to dairy whenever you're maybe congested or recovering from a cold or some kind of a respiratory issue, because dairy creates dampness, aka mucus, in the body. So maybe that day or that like week or whatever, your body wants no dairy, but normally it's really good for you and you have no issue with it. So do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's the issue that I have with these intuitive health and fitness plans, is that people were spending hours, literally hours, doing these incredibly in-depth intuitive reads and not necessarily giving the most true and accurate full picture of what might be best for that person. And also, like, I mean, do you really know all of the different options? Like, do you really know all of the different methods of exercise? And like, I don't know. That's just where I'm like, I just would so much rather default to like medical astrology and like looking at my specific birth chart and knowing that this specific exercise is typically really good for me. This specific food is typically really good for me. And then on a day-to-day basis, I can connect with my own body and go, okay, does beef feel like a good thing for me today? Yes or no? Does high intensity exercise feel like a good thing for me today? Yes or no? I would just rather have an actual structure that is more comprehensive, and it is not something that I'm just like pulling out of thin air. It's something that has been created like so long ago, like medical astrology, I mean. And there are patterns, and this is proven, and like this is not just something that I'm just like intuiting like on a random day whenever that might not be the full picture, if that makes sense. Another aspect to this is I saw several people, and actually somebody, I'm not in touch with her anymore, but at the time I was, and she had her intuitive health and fitness plan done. She had a goal of releasing like 20 pounds or something like that. And she gets her plan and she like starts following it or whatever, and absolutely nothing happened. Like, she was not losing weight. If anything, she might have even put some weight on, and there was like no improvement at all. And I saw this with multiple people where they're doing these plans and their bodies are not like, they're not changing for the better. And I'm not saying that to be critical of how anyone looks, because it's not about what I think. It's like literally it was their own goal. Like, they wanted to lose however much weight. That's their business. That's not my opinion. I also wanted to lose a certain amount of weight. Of course, I did not do the health and fitness plan because I just did my own thing. And it worked. And so anyway, I didn't see anybody. I didn't see a single person. And I'm not saying that there isn't a person, but I personally did not see a single person talk about their health and fitness plan that they got from their intuitive read in a way that was like, oh my God, like, I lost this much weight and I feel amazing and blah, blah, blah. Like, I didn't see anybody actually have like the results that they wanted from that. What I did see was people doing it and talking about it, and then later going and hiring like a hormone expert, or going and hiring a personal trainer, or going and hiring like a nutrition coach, or getting their labs done because they're like, nothing's happening. And that just to me speaks very loudly. It speaks very, very loudly. And it doesn't mean that we can't like incorporate our intuition into like our daily food choices. Like, yes, we absolutely can, but there is more to it than that, because things can change very quickly. I mean, things can change more than just like once a day. It might be like, should I have beef for lunch? No. Should I have beef for dinner? Yes. Like it can literally be different from hour to hour in the day. Like, especially as women, our cycles are so hugely influential in our health, and that can have so much impact on whether something or a certain kind of exercise, a certain kind of food, anything like that would be good or not good for us. And that, I think, should be hugely incorporated and taken into consideration as well, whenever we're kind of implementing any kind of plan or protocol. Like what you do whenever you're in your luteal phase or when you're menstruating versus what you do maybe in your follicular or your ovulatory is going to be different. Your energy level is different. Your body, the way that your body is retaining water is different. Even your skin can look totally different. Like you can be glowing or you can be like kind of dull, and it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong necessarily. It's just like we go through a cycle. We have different phases of the cycle where different things are prioritized within the body. And so anyway, okay, that has been my experience with training my intuition in this particular way and in that particular container. And if it is not already clear, I absolutely would not do it again. I would never say that just as a whole, you shouldn't train your intuition, because like I said, I know that there are other teachers out there who probably teach it in a different way that might connect more with people like me who have like splenic authority and who are pretty connected. Like I obviously don't want to just make a blanket statement that I don't advocate for training your intuition as a whole, because I don't know who else is out there and what else is out there. But I can just say for me, like I did myself a disservice by entering into this particular container, and I wouldn't do it again. And if you've had a different experience than this, like I love that for you. If you know who I'm talking about and you were in this container and it literally has up-leveled your life in every single way possible, I am so genuinely happy for you. Like really, really, really happy for you. And I am just like rooting for you. I just encourage everyone who might be listening to this and might start to question, like, I did think that was a little weird too, or I did have questions about that too. Follow that. Don't ever just take something that someone says because they're successful and they make a lot of money and they have a lot of followers on Instagram and TikTok. Like, don't ever just take what somebody says just because of who they are or who you perceive them to be. You are your own authority. You are the magic. Like you have the answers, and they may not be the same answers as they are for everyone else. In fact, they're probably not the same as they are for everyone else. So, okay, that's what I'm going to leave you with today. We've got another hour plus long episode. I am just on fire lately with these long episodes. Let me know if you're enjoying them. Let me know what you're thinking. And it's okay if you let me know that you don't agree. Like, that's okay. I'm not trying to change anyone's mind. I am just sharing my story and my experience, because I don't think that I'm the only one. In fact, I know that I'm not the only one who kind of feels this way. So yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, whether you're a part of this community or whether you are not. Please feel free to DM me and let's have a nice little respectful chat. What I'm not going to do is debate with you. So if that's your goal, like go ahead and miss me with that. But I'm just kind of in this energy, like I talked about last week. I'm just popping off, but I'm not popping off just to like cause drama or just to make waves. Like I do not at all have an intention of just like hater energy and like, let me just talk shit just to talk shit. Like, no, that is not my intention. I truly just want to share what is true for me in case it might help somebody else or might help someone else access their truth. That maybe they were trying to feel out, but couldn't quite like put it into words or couldn't quite grasp it. So, yeah, that's what I have for you. I am moving. This is my last episode that I am recording in our old house. And so the next episode that I have for you next Thursday will be recorded from the new house. And I am so, so excited. We literally move in like 2 days, well, like a day and a half now. And it could not come soon enough. I am so stinking excited. Okay. So I will talk to you next Thursday from my new house. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon.